but it seems like Japan is really, really good at baseball compared to, like, I don't know what other sports are popular in Japan, but it seems like they're really fucking good at baseball.
It's like they just went from swinging swords to swinging that bat. It's just natural.
That could be it. You know, that's very well. It couldn't be that it was introduced to them heavily when they were in those camps in the 40s, right? Or was it? Yeah, that was
weren't they Americans?
Safe. Well, I think the Japanese, you know, we put that base there after World War II and kind of stayed for a real long time, and that probably institutionalized them with a lot of baseball stuff, huh?
But is that to
you
their
had to give them
advantage?
something to do.
No, that's making sure you don't fuck up, and that's us rebuilding their infrastructure too.
That's what
Like
I'm
you know,
saying. There's a couple things. We rebuilt their infrastructure.
we kind of decimated their military. We're hanging out defending Japan for those years.
Exactly. So there's this whole guns versus butter thing that any Civ player knows, you know, and what you invest into. Japan just do butter. They didn't have to build a military. They were under our protective shield for a long time.
They still don't have an offensive military. You know, they can never start a war that's not unless they're attacked first. They can't pull a George Bush and be like, they've probably got some weapons over there and go.
Well, Germany was also supposed to not have any more arms after World War I, and that very quickly, well, not very quickly, but it did change.
Yes, but in Japan's circumstance, like they could vote to change that. They just don't.
Maybe they just realize, hey, we've got a lot of money to put into research and whatnot, and these fucking Americans are taking care of the world's safety, spending so much money on military shit. Let's just keep spending it on not iPhones, but whatever we make, Samsung.
I don't think that of the Japanese. The Japanese seem, because I read something the other day, something about that there were calls to change the way their military is structured, to change the way they deal with war, I guess, so that they could have an intervening military that could go and be like, these guys are a threat, we need to take them out, and go do that without they're kind of handcuffed right now, it seemed like.
Yeah, they at least need something.
But they see the Japanese seem like, you know, you always hear about those businessmen who work themselves to death, and you know all that Bushido code stuff that I imagine is still part of their like day-to-day office environment. Like they just seem like they take their jobs very seriously over there. So I would imagine their military is the same.
I wonder how different that is than here. Like I worked late. I worked till 8, 9, 10,
Not
11.
until you died.
Yeah, sometimes I'd work till 4 if there was a big thing.
Did you ever work until you died?
Well, I mean, everyone does eventually.
Did you ever met anyone or heard of anyone who wasn't a Japanese man who worked themselves until they died?
No, because we don't make a big deal about it. We just fucking get jobs done, right? They're out there, woe is me, I'm such a hard worker. Fuck you, baby. That's par for the course here in America.
I mean,
they just died. They dropped dead of exhaustion. Literally, they have a word for it.
Yeah. Who's Totoro?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to know, are they really working that hard? Because Americans work really hard too. And
I think that it's just the culture of perfection that a lot of them have, at least the older generation. Like you never hear about there's never been an American CEO who ran the company into the ground, but still had like tens of millions of dollars to fall back on, killing themselves in shame. But there are actual stories of like CEOs of giant Japanese companies where they have to lay a ton of people off, or they take a huge dive and there's a big fail in their stock prices, or whatever the case may be, and they're worth tens of millions of dollars still, and they kill themselves. Because they just can't deal with.
Like, when's the last time that happened? Because I've only heard these stories, but mostly I even see CEOs and stuff apologizing. I'm so sorry, I did a bad job in this, and then they take their money and they fucking buy a boat, right? They like, dude,
Those are American CEOs, though. And I'm sure there's some Japanese ones like that, but it's just a difference in culture that it happens in Japan. It would never happen here.
I feel like it doesn't happen anymore. I feel like now they're Americanized, baby. They might issue an apology, but
I bet there's stories about this.
Let's see.
Like if Elon Musk drove SpaceX and all of that shit into the ground and it was just a colossal failure, he would not go kill himself. He would not be like, oh God, I'll never get to Mars, like, and do that. Like he'd keep living as a billionaire.
Manager commits Harry Carey to fight corporate restructuring, and that was in '99. That's where
You got to go back 17 years to find our most recent example.
No, that's just one that, I mean, I'm not Googling it, but
Japan's finance minister. Well, I mean,
is it like a graph
finance
of this?
minister commits suicide on Suicide Prevention Day. That's funny. He allegedly hung himself in his own home. He would not be the first Japanese government minister to kill himself, and he won't be the last. It was reported that he was struggling with the pressures of his job. Well, that's just a quitter right there. That's all that is.
Yeah. The removal of McDonald's all-day breakfast was too much to bear.
The Wire is funny. Who wrote this? This is good stuff. This whole thing is written with a bit of humor.
Here's a Japan Inc. rocked by massive accounting fraud. Toshiba CEO quits after admitting 7 years of cooked books. And as I scanned through this, they inflated their profits by about $1 billion, or 38% of their profits. And yeah, he was willing to bow. I'll give him that. And he just took the money and ran. So,
well, maybe they don't got themselves.
He brought
anymore.
much shame upon his family.
Great
shame and cash. This to me seems like an American response.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that most Japanese CEOs are rational enough to be like, well, I still got money. I'm going to go buy a little cube in Tokyo for $500 million and live out the rest of my life, where I can reach my refrigerator and my shower from the same seat. But I mean, it's just an American CEO I don't think has ever killed themselves in shame. Like that would have to be a Google. Like that, if there's no way. Never heard of it.
How often do those Wall Street guys actually jump out the window?
I mean, that was only when the Twin Towers were going down that people were jumping out of there.
No,
he's talking about the Great Depression.
I'm talking about well, not just the Great Depression. I feel like there's been many incidents throughout time where like it might not even be a huge like market crash. Maybe just this guy's company went down, or where a specific stock goes down, and these guys are just like, well, 3 minutes ago I was a multimillionaire who had the world by the balls. Now I'm nothing. I'm going to take a step out that window, and they just jump.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I hadn't considered that, and that goes against what I already believe about this situation, so I choose to disregard it.
Fair enough.
No, but I mean, when is the last time that happened? Did that happen at all in the 2008 collapse? Like any stockbrokers or
those guys got bought out, got golden parachutes and government paychecks. So no,
oh, that's true.
No one killed themselves. I'm sure there were a lot of hardworking Americans who went homeless and ended up killing themselves, though.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but they're not CEOs.